If you want to learn about an unknown Spider-Man wearing a fake butt, Eddie Brock in the first Spider-Man movie, and an scrapped cameo that will have shocked you, be sure to watch the video. Well, hello there, Spider-Dash here. Not too long ago, I made an Iceberg video about the Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, and it went viral. So, I decided to do some digging, and it turns out that video is just the tip of the iceberg. There's even more stuff to this trilogy than we initially thought. So, get ready because this is the Raimi's Spider-Man Iceberg, the lost entries. Be sure to watch this and the previous video to know absolutely everything about the Raimi trilogy. And before starting the video, give me a like, be sure to click the subscribe button and leave
pizza time
in the comment section to win a free pizza. Thank you so much for watching, and with that out of the way, let's begin! Tier 1, the tip of the iceberg. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. There are rumors that the Raimi's version of Spider-Man will appear in the upcoming movie Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness that will be released in just a few weeks. If you come from the future, leave in the comments if this is true. Spider-Man 4. We already discussed the plans that Sam Raimi had to make Spider-Man 4 in my previous video, but recently, after Tobey's apparition in No Way Home, we have a lot of rumors that Spider-Man 4 might be a real possibility right now. Would you rather see Spider-Man 4 or The Amazing Spider-Man 3? Leave your answer in the comment section. Spider-Man 2 PC port. Spider-Man 2 is one of the best superhero games of all time, and one of the best open world games of its time. But that's only true if you played the console version of the game. The PC version was awful, to say the least. It makes you wonder what were they thinking when they made the game. Spider-Man 60 song in the first Spider-Man movie. Almost no one knows this, but it's because it happens in the credits. If you stay almost until the end of the credits of the first Spider-Man movie, you will hear the classic Spider-Man song from the 60s. Raimi's suit in the Amazing Spider-Man game. We already know that the Raimi suit is on Spider-Man PS4, and that it was the most demanded suit. But, for some reason, the Raimi suit appears on the Amazing Spider-Man game. It was sold as DLC. Nice to know that the Raimi suit was considered a thing even back then. Tobey's brothers in Spider-Man 2. Do you remember the kids that give Peter the Spider-Man mask back? Well, those kids are none other than Tobey Maguire's brothers in real life.
Shazam!
When Peter is learning how to shoot webs, he says
Shazam!
Which is a reference to DC's superhero by the same name, Shazam. And when Peter says up, up and away,
Up and away, web!
is a reference to Superman. You can tell that Sam Raimi really likes comics. Alex Ross. I already mentioned the Alex Ross suit, but something that I should have mentioned in my first video is that the art of the introduction sequence of Spider-Man 2 was made by the legend himself, Alex Ross. Suit changes. The suit from the Raimi trilogy went through some changes throughout the movies, most of them minor. Most notably, the symbols and the color of the suit changed a bit. Flash is Deathstroke. The same actor that plays Flash Thompson in the Raimi trilogy, Joe Manganiello, plays Deathstroke in the post-credit scene of the Justice League. It's a shame that we won't see more of him as Deathstroke. Flash in Harry's funeral. In the scene of Harry's funeral, we can see a lot of familiar faces. One of them is Flash Thompson, which is weird because the last time that we saw him was in the first Spider-Man movie, which means that maybe Peter and Flash developed a friendship off screen.
Can the Spider-Man come out to play?
In Spider-Man No Way Home, the Green Goblin says this,
Can the Spider-Man come out to play?
which is a reference to the first Spider-Man movie, as many that are in No Way Home, but this one in particular is easy to forget.
Can Spider-Man come out to play?
Spider-Man in X-Men. Someone in a Spider-Man suit appears in a blooper scene of the first X-Men movie, which, along with the scrapped Wolverine cameo in Spider-Man 2, means that Fox really wanted a crossover between Spider-Man and the X-Men. Launch tray. This is something well known as well, but I didn't mention it in my previous video. The launch tray scene where Peter catches all the food with the tray had no CGI, and it was filmed with a special glue. It took Tobey more than 100 tries to get it right. Eddie Brock in the first Spider-Man movie. Eddie Brock is named in the first Spider-Man movie.
Problem is, we don't have a decent picture. Eddie's been on it for weeks. We can barely get a glimpse of him.
But that is not the only clue that we have of his existence in this movie. He was supposed to be played by the football player Richard Charles Everbeck Jr. We know that thanks to this picture. Also, some people say that they can see Eddie Brock's name in a newspaper of Spider-Man 2. Joe's Pizza. Joe's Pizza is a place that you can visit in real life, but what I wanted to tell is that Joe's Pizza appears on a new ad of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which means that it's really likely that we'll see at least a cameo of Tobey's Spider-Man. Tier 2. Below the surface. Fake ass. According to Tom Holland, one of the Spider-Men in No Way Home had to wear a fake ass, which begs the question, who was wearing it? He didn't give the answer, but most likely it was Tobey Maguire. Playable MJ in movie video game. In the first Spider-Man movie game, you can enter a cheat code to play as MJ, but only on early versions of the game. Later versions were updated and removed this feature entirely, because in the final cutscene, instead of Spider-Man kissing MJ, is MJ kissing herself, which is a bit weird. The Beyond. Sam Raimi used a frame from the horror movie The Beyond in the first Spider-Man movie, after the scene where Peter gets bitten by the spider, which is shocking honestly. Reference in Iron Man deleted scene. The original post-credits scene of the first Iron Man movie included a reference to the Fox version of the X-Men and the Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
As if gamma accidents, radioactive bug bites, and assorted mutants weren't enough. I have to deal with a spoiled brat who doesn't play well with others and wants to keep all his toys to himself.
Tobey vs. Green Goblin in No Way Home. Tobey's Spider-Man was supposed to fight the Green Goblin in Spider-Man No Way Home. We know that thanks to these pictures. Spider-Man 3 poster in The Dark Knight. In the opening sequence of The Dark Knight, we can see a Spider-Man 3 poster in the background. Anne Hathaway as Black Cat in Spider-Man 4. Sam Raimi revealed that Anne Hathaway auditioned to play Black Cat in the now cancelled Spider-Man 4. It's funny if you think about it, because she was going to play a cat-based character regardless if it was in Spider-Man or in The Dark Knight. Spider-Man 4 game. There's an unfinished Spider-Man 4 game for the Nintendo Wii that was intended to launch along with the movie, but it was cancelled. But also there's a different version made for the Xbox 360 that you can play on your PC with an Xbox emulator. Something funny about this version is that it uses the same engine as Prototype, which is rumored that it was intended to be a game about Venom. Comic accurate symbiote suit. In Spider-Man 3, we were supposed to get a symbiote suit closer to the one in the comics, but this never happened, because according to the designers, this looked like something out of a porn movie. Bruce Campbell is Mysterio. We know that Bruce Campbell was going to have a cameo in Spider-Man 4 as Mysterio, but there's a theory that he wasn't just playing random characters, and everything was a build-up that was going to be revealed in Spider-Man 4. Morbius. In the teaser trailer of Morbius, we can see a poster of Raimi's Spider-Man. I don't know if it appears in the movie. Serial. When the first Spider-Man movie was released, it made multiple collaborations with multiple food chains, most notably cereals. You could make an entire museum of just collectibles of Raimi's Spider-Man. Burger King collaborations. Both Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3 made collaborations with Burger King, where if you bought one of their Happy Meals, it came with a toy from the Raimi trilogy. It was a nice time to be a kid. 2 Green Goblins. In the scene where the Green Goblin makes you wish that you were wearing brown pants, you can see a second Green Goblin in the background. The Lizard. In the scene where Dr. Connors is studying the symbiote, we can see a lizard in the background, which is an obvious reference to his alter ego. Super Pizza Time 64. Super Pizza Time 64 is a room hack of Super Mario 64, made by Pasta Power, where he combines the mechanics of Super Mario 64 and the pizza missions from the Spider-Man 2 game. If you want to know more, I'll leave a link in the description. Play as the Goblin in Spider-Man 1 and 3 games. In the first Spider-Man movie game, you can enter a cheat code to play as the Green Goblin, and the Spider-Man 3 video game had a DLC where you can play as Harry Osborn, aka the New Goblin. Also, in the Spider-Man 3 game, you can go inside Norman Osborn's house and visit the Green Goblin's lair. Tier 3. The Abyss. Alternate Green Goblin introduction in No Way Home. The Green Goblin was supposed to have a different introduction in Spider-Man No Way Home, but probably it was changed because the one we have has more impact. Tragedy on set. A man named Tim Holcomb died while building a set for the first Spider-Man movie. A crane fell on him. Rest in peace, Tim. Norman Osborn is Peter's father. Remember when Norman said this?
Your mother was beautiful too. They're all beautiful. Until they're snarling after your trust fund like a pack of ravening wolves.
You're wrong about her, Dad.
A word to the not-so-wise about your little girlfriend. Do what you need to with her, then broom her fast.
Well, there is a theory that in this universe, Uncle Ben has a sister named Mary Parker instead of Richard, his usual brother, and Mary Parker got pregnant with Norman Osborn's son. At some point, she wanted to marry Norman, and he declined, in fear of losing his fortune. She was going to sue Norman, but he took care of the situation after Peter was born. This will explain why when Norman is not being controlled by the Goblin, he treats Peter like a son. Most of the time, even better than Harry. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Kellogg's Demo. I already mentioned how the Raimi trilogy made collaborations with multiple food chains, and how some of them came with toys. One of them came with a demo of the first Spider-Man movie game. The thing is that it wasn't a demo of that game, it was a demo of Spider-Man PSX with a skin of the movie. Really weird if you ask me. Carnage in Spider-Man Friend or Foe. Spider-Man Friend or Foe features a lot of Spider-Man villains, but not Carnage. That is only true if you didn't play the PSP version of the game. For some reason, this version has Carnage as a bonus character that you can play with. This game is heavily inspired on the Raimi trilogy, so this could be the Raimi version of Carnage. Vulture wings in Spider-Man 3. A lot of props were made to film Spider-Man 3, but one that is shocking that got made are the Vulture wings. Apparently, the Vulture was going to appear in the movie, in a scene where Sandman and the Vulture were going to break out of jail. The Vulture was cut from the movie because it was replaced with Venom. 90s Spider-Man reference in No Way Home. After the scene of the three Spider-Man swinging together, Tobey's Spider-Man lands in a similar pose than the Spider-Man of the 90s. Liz Allen. Remember this girl that appears a few seconds after Peter gets in the bus? Well, it was revealed that she is none other than Liz Allen. Piano lessons. In the scene where Peter is at the bar that MJ's work, he plays the piano really well.
Peter?
It makes you wonder, how did he learn to play the piano? Well, in Spider-Man 2, Aunt May mentions that she is giving piano lessons.
I'm giving piano lessons again.
So, it is safe to assume that Aunt May taught Peter how to play the piano. Tobey dies in No Way Home. There are rumors that the writers of No Way Home wanted to kill a Spider-Man in the movie, and the one that was most likely to die was Tobey Maguire. It's a good thing that they didn't proceed with that idea. In the video game Spider-Man 2, when you're fighting Mysterio, he says this. Which is no coincidence, because in the movie Army of Darkness, that is directed by Sam Raimi, there's a spell that basically uses the same words.
Klaatu! Miranda!
And there's more. That spell in Army of Darkness is a reference to the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Klaatu, Barada, Nikto.
So, if my math is correct, that is like 16 references happening at once. A huge thanks to F. Silla for sharing this. Beige 1973 Oldsmobile. The beige 1973 Oldsmobile is Uncle Ben's car in the first Spider-Man movie, and in real life is Sam Raimi's car, and it appears in almost every movie that he directed. Sam Raimi loves that car because he borrowed it from his dad and used it in his first movie with the only condition of returning the car in one piece and a full tank of gas. It is safe to assume that after his son's success, Sam Raimi's dad gave the car to his son. Will we see this car in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? Stolen suits. When the first Spider-Man movie was being filmed, 4 Spider-Man suits were stolen, each one valued in $50,000. It turns out they were stolen by a security guard. The suits were found in different parts of the world, New York, Los Angeles, and even in Japan. And there's more. That same security guard stole a Batman suit from the Tim Burton film. There's no need to say that the security guard is now in jail. Censorship. In the scene where the Green Goblin punches Spider-Man and saliva comes out of his mouth was censored. Originally, it was supposed to be blood. Peter's powers foreshadowing. When Peter gets bitten by the spider, we can see a list of the genetically altered spider abilities in the TV, which are the same abilities that Peter gets. Web jokes and references. Throughout the movie there's a lot of references to a spider web, like the wallpaper on Peter's room has a web pattern. And in this ad outside of Harry's apartment, it says the web string platform. Stingray. In the scene where Peter Parker is drawing the Spider-Man suit, he draws something that resembles the super obscure Marvel character Stingray. Snapdragon. When Peter is buying flowers for MJ, you can see that there's one type of flowers named Snapdragon, which is a reference to another obscure Marvel character, Snapdragon, and the other kind of flowers are named Carnation, which could be a reference to Carnage. Spider-Man 3 recycled scene from Spider-Man 2. You can see that in the opening sequence of Spider-Man 3, a scene is recycled from the final swing from Spider-Man 2. I guess they were feeling lazy that day. Spider-Man vs. The Amazing Spider-Man. When the Sony leak happened, a lot of projects from Sony were leaked. One of them was named Spider-Man vs. The Amazing Spider-Man. We don't have much information other than the name, but this means that Sony was planning on a multiverse movie all the way back in 2014, which is insane because Tom Holland wasn't even a thing back then. Also, thinking of a movie of Andrew vs. Tobey is kinda nerve-wracking to say the least. Sinister Six figures. When Spider-Man 3 was released, it was a massive success, so naturally, they will take advantage of that, releasing as many toys as possible. The thing is that they made figures of characters that never appeared in the movies. A lot of Spider-Man villains have figures that you could potentially make the Raimi Burst version of the Sinister Six. Sam Raimi figure. For the Comic-Con 2014, they released an exclusive figure of Sam Raimi, which is nice because you could have it with your collection of the Raimi trilogy. Although, if you want to buy this figure now, be warned, it won't be cheap. Sam Raimi cameo. Sam Raimi was supposed to have a cameo in Spider-Man 3 as a captain of the police force. This would have been insane, and honestly I feel kinda sad that it didn't happen. If they ever make Spider-Man 4, we need this cameo. Dr. Wallace. Dr. Wallace was a character that was supposed to appear in Spider-Man 3. He was going to help Flint Marko to find a cure for his daughter, but in the end, he was cut from the movie. Pirated copies of Spider-Man 3 sold early on China. It was reported that China was selling copies of Spider-Man 3 a few months before the official release, which preoccupied Sony and they decided to investigate. It turns out that China was selling copies of Spider-Man 2 in Spider-Man 3 cases, which is still illegal, but it wasn't a threat to Sony anymore. If the movie leaked early, they could have lost millions. Well, you stayed until the end. I want to give a huge shout out to Bionic Fan. He left me this pretty wholesome message on Twitter and it made my day. Thank you so much, Bionic Fan. And also a shout out to Zoom B6, Skippy, QAS, Navarro Family, Dab Carlos Andes, Matthews Oliveira, Ania Marie, JCB Depp, Oldman Joseph, Luis Cerda, Estelios Lonau, Caleb Spencer, Evasive Pictures, Plush Fun, Mr. X, Spider Gamer 12, Mario, Mekna Rajput, and some random guy. If you want a shoutout in my next video, give me a like, be sure to click the subscribe button and leave
pizza time
in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching and bye bye.